All right. Good afternoon, everybody. We'll see if this works. There we go. It's great to be here. Thank you all for taking the time to be here and really such tough acts so far. That PSA, I think we all need a hero. So I can't wait to see that go live and to see where things go. It's a great honor to be here today and to have the opportunity to share some insights, some of the perspective of what we are seeing at the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. I will try and dive into a couple different topics, some around figures, facts and figures from a global scale. We'll talk a little bit about online enticement and sextortion and generative AI, some of the building blocks that you've heard about so far, but I'll try and bring a global perspective from what we're seeing within the reports and what we're doing to counteract these issues. But before I do that, who are we and what brought me here, right? On the screen, you are seeing our headquarters. Our organization is 40 years old this year. We were created out of a national tragedy. There was a young boy, and I'll show you a brief video, who was abducted, later murdered, and his parents became child advocates. They never wanted another child or family to go through what they went through. And our organization in 1984 was created quite simply to help reunite families with missing children, to help reduce child sexual exploitation, and to prevent child victimization. We are a private, nonprofit organization. It's a little unique in what we're able to do. United States Congress has authorized us to run a number of programs, one of which is the Cyber Tip Line, which is the national clearinghouse on the issue of child sexual exploitation, as well as operating a child victim identification program. So we have staff that are reviewing the images and videos, assisting law enforcement with the identification of those children. Similar to other groups like the Canadian Center you heard from, we send notices to hosting providers. We work with survivors as well. You see there, every child deserves a safe childhood. That is our motto, our mantra, our vision, and not just in the United States, but all around the world. And that's what brought me here today. Is really to find ways to collaborate at the global scale and to help protect children. I'm going to show you this quick video clip, and we actually just created it about a week ago because it is our 40th anniversary, and I thought it might give a little bit of perspective of our roots, where it came from, what we're trying to do. You'll see our founder is in this video. Some of these pieces are from the 80s, and John Walsh would often say back then that it was easier to find a stolen car or a stolen horse than it was to find a stolen child. Fortunately, a lot of progress has been made since the 80s. We're in a much better place, but this is truly our origins.
A little boy named Eitan Pates disappeared.
Little boys on the streets are not safe alone anymore.
We don't know the direction that he headed in. He's of a slim build and
is get these flyers in everybody's hands.
I still believe that somehow we'll reach the people that have Adam. They have found the remains of a young person in Florida.
I don't know who would do this to a 6-year-old child.
I think the greatest legacy you can leave is to make a statement for your children.
The first step toward establishing a clearinghouse on missing children.
I go into Hannah.
I'm delighted to help launch the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children.
Our operators are on duty 24 hours a day.
Good afternoon, National Center.
These operators do God's work.
We have technology to age photographs of missing children.
1 out of every 7 children featured in this system is eventually recovered.
This network of retired law enforcement officials will work as volunteers on difficult cases.
I owe so much to the National Center. They saved my life.
The new cyber tip line will be using the internet to help catch child predators who operate online.
A financial coalition to eradicate commercial child pornography.
They were the major advocates behind the Amber Alert. Their work brought me home.
Code Adam was established as a tribute to my son.
Click here so that they can learn more about keeping you safer online.
In Alexandria, Virginia, a group of analysts worked to save the girls and boys being sexually abused and exploited.
This is a building of hope. Thank you.
We're doing a lot right now to just rebuild into the future and be a very forward-leaning organization.
The threats facing our children online are a global problem that requires us to come together as a global community.
We use every piece of technology available to find missing kids.
At the core of NCMEC's mission is helping children and supporting survivors.
And it's good to know that you have people in this world that are willing to give of themselves to help you.
Okay, so a little background there. While we've always dealt with child sexual exploitation in 1984 when we launched, it wasn't until 1998 that we actually created the cyber tip line. We wanted to have a centralized way that really the public could report suspected child sexual exploitation really anywhere in the world. And the cyber tip line receives reports regarding child sexual abuse material, the online enticement of children for sexual acts, child sex trafficking, real-world situations like child molestation. It runs the entire gamut of child sexual exploitation. In that first year, we had a whopping 4,500 reports that came into the tip line. I wasn't there at that point. I didn't join NCMEC until the year 2000, so I have been with the organization for about 24 years now and have seen exponential growth, obviously in our programs of work and this issue as a whole. In fact, if we fast forward a little bit to last year, 36 million reports came into the cyber tip line. And part of that is because shortly after our inception, United States Congress, they recognized the value of the cyber tip line, and they passed a law. They required US-based companies that if they become aware of child sexual abuse material on their platforms, they're required by law to submit a report into the cyber tip line. Many of these companies, they're huge global providers, and I'll show you some of the figures in a minute. But truth be told, these types of incidents are happening all around the world, and out of those 36 million reports last year, 90% involved situations outside of the United States. So you had people that were using platforms like Snap or X or Meta, where they're uploading child sexual abuse material, or they're grooming children. And so what we've done is really built the cyber tip line into a global clearinghouse for information. It's our job to take it all in, identify the patterns, the trends, the activities that are happening, and get that information to law enforcement as soon as possible. We'll dive into some of that during this brief piece this morning. Within those reports, the companies have the ability to actually upload the images and videos in question. So out of those 36 million reports last year, we had 105 million files that were reported. You can see the figures behind me, the breakdown of images versus videos. The other piece that's on there, some companies will provide complete communications. So we get chat logs. Sometimes it's easier for a company, instead of reporting little bits of information, they take a user's entire account and report the whole thing, and law enforcement can work that too. So the cyber tip line will receive an unlimited number of files. Predominantly, we get images and videos, and I would say over the past 4 to 5 years, with the improvements in technology, high-speed internet, as well as the ability to create videos on your phone, we're receiving more child sexual abuse videos than we are with images. So there's more content being created in the image space, just for what that's worth. And you know, at the end of the day, all we're talking about is child sexual abuse material. The internet is just facilitating it. It's making it far, far easier for individuals to connect with one another. And there's so many areas that this can happen. Much of the time we talk about the World Wide Web. You heard about the dark net earlier, but there's also peer-to-peer, the file sharing programs that are out there. There's Usenet, the old bulletin board systems. They're still in existence today. So it takes really a multifaceted approach when we're trying to attack this issue. And it's not law enforcement alone. You have to have industry, you have to have the NGOs. We're really in this all together to attack this issue. So last year, here's a bit of a breakdown of some of the top reporters. High figures are not always indicative of a bad platform. In fact, some of these platforms with the higher numbers is because they're taking proactive steps to find, remove, and report when it's happening. You know, there are some companies, an easy one to focus on would be someone like Apple, who chooses not to take any steps to look in iCloud or iMessage. They don't even build ways that users can report the activity into them. And so their numbers are very low. Because the law in the US requires companies, when they're aware of it, to report to the cyber tip line. It does not make them do anything proactive to go and find it, and it doesn't even make them build a way that you have to be told. So there's loopholes, if you will, that need to get worked through. But some companies, they are going above and beyond, and they want to make sure none of this content can be on their platform, and they openly report this into our system. And how does this work? Similarly to other tip lines that are out there, information comes in. We are a 24/7 operation. We have people monitoring and reviewing these reports every day of the week, prioritizing and triaging them based on the risk to a child. These are the types of reports at 2, 3, 4 in the morning. If there's a life-threatening situation, we will wake up a variety of people, including law enforcement, to get that into their hands as soon as possible. We use a variety of technologies to be able to handle this volume of reports. I could spend hours talking about those different tools and how we do this. You know, our team, there are about 125 people on my team that deal with the child exploitation reports, so it is a huge team with the volume, but there's no way we could handle it without technology and really influencing the reports so that nothing slips through the cracks. One of our biggest concerns with averaging 100,000 reports a day is that one of those reports has a piece of information that's going to help us identify that child, and we don't want to miss it. So we have a lot of alerts, the system's using AI and different tools to try and detect that activity. And we make these reports available to law enforcement all around the world. One of the reasons that I'm here and so excited to be with you, Tomislav, is meeting with Croatian law enforcement to further enhance our relations, to make sure they're getting these reports, because they are increasing. Small numbers overall in Croatia compared to other parts of the world. You know, 2, 3 years ago it was around 5,000 reports. Then it went to 10,000. Last year it was about 16,000 reports related to Croatia, where individuals uploading from IP addresses that were here, or victims themselves are experiencing sextortion or being blackmailed. And we want to make sure that information is getting to Croatian law enforcement and they can investigate that as quickly as possible. So maybe we'll transition a little bit into some of the recent trends, some of the things that we're seeing within these tens and hundreds of thousands of cyber tip line reports. And they're all kind of tied into one another. Online enticement is kind of a bigger umbrella for some of the other topics where generative AI comes into play, and as well as financial sextortion, especially what's happening with the young boys right now. And we'll go into that. So the enticement numbers are growing at an alarming pace. It's probably the best way to put it. Child sexual abuse material reports have already gone through the roof. Those have been really skyrocketing because the companies are finding better ways to identify it, as well as just the global community and these types of offenders being better connected and able to swap files. But with enticement, we really started to track this over the past couple of years, and where you see the 2024 figures, that's only like halfway through the year. We're not even done. And part of that is the number of cases that are really taking off. You know, there are concerted efforts by individuals in countries like Nigeria, the Ivory Coast, where it's money-making schemes where they are specifically focusing on young boys, targeting them to take an intimate image of themselves, and as soon as they're doing it, they're blackmailing themselves. They're blackmailing those kids, and we'll dive into the amounts of money. It's crazy amounts of money. 500 euros for a 14-year-old? Where are they going to come with that kind of money? We've been tracking over 24 minors in North America that have committed suicide just from these types of cases, not knowing what to do. So we're going to hit some prevention and try and talk through some of the steps that are underway to try and change that narrative, that it's not the end of the world. You see a piece here that says the Report Act. It probably doesn't mean a lot to you guys, but just 2 months ago, a law was passed in the United States. It was the Report Act. Historically, I would have told you that the companies are required to report child sexual abuse material when they're aware of it. With the passage of this act, they are now also required to report the online enticement of children for sexual acts, as well as child sex trafficking. So we should start to see the increases in that reporting volume in the near future. They've always actioned it, but they weren't required to report it. So that's just kind of where that piece is. Where are these reports coming from? So at January through August of this year, you saw the slide a minute ago with the top reporters, and it was really Facebook and Instagram. But take a look at Snapchat. It's really changing, and the offenders, for what it's worth, they're going where the kids are. So wherever the popular platforms are, that's where they migrate towards. And a lot of these financial sextortion schemes are happening on Snap, Instagram. Fortunately, or recently, Instagram made some changes with the way you can access teenagers. Hopefully, Snap's able to move in that direction in the near future, too. Gen AI. I think we've all been talking about generative AI. We are seeing relatively small numbers of generative AI child sexual abuse material cases compared to the larger ecosystem of what we're having coming into the cyber tip line regarding actual and real child sexual abuse material. Over the past 18 months or so, you'll see some of those figures that we're getting close to 15,000 reports, about 22,000 files that are in those reports as well. We're starting to label those images and videos when they come through. We give the companies the ability that when they report, if it was created by the machines, they can flag it. And it's a really good thing that we've done that, because I've seen some of this content that's come through. The team was briefing me on some of the material, and I stopped and was like, how did you know that was created by machines? That was generative AI, and because the company tagged it. Otherwise, it's indistinguishable. All of us, I think, are looking at the ones where there's an extra digit or something's not quite right about the picture. There are certain models out there right now, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. So we're trying to test and review every different tool that's out there. Plenty of discussions around watermarking and prominence and the such. There isn't a silver bullet right now to detect this content, but it's going to continue to grow. And these are the source of reports, so where they're coming from, and the types of reports that we're receiving. One of the frustrating or challenging parts about this, most of the reports that are coming into the cyber tip line right now related to generative AI, it's not coming from the generative AI companies. There are some that report. OpenAI, for example, they're doing a great job. If someone was to do text prompts and trying to get DALL-E to produce content, and it's related to child sexual exploitation material, they stop that from happening, and they actually report the prompts. We actually see the prompts of what they were trying to get. If someone tries to upload child sexual abuse material into an OpenAI product, and it detects it based on a known hash value, it won't let it happen. Because we do see, and you heard about it earlier, there are individuals who possess child sexual abuse material. They're uploading it into generative AI platforms to extend their collection. They know there's a set number of images and videos related to that victim. They're fantasizing about that victim. They want more content, and they're trying to get the machines to do it. That's one way. Another way, there are some offenders that are trying to take their collections, run it through these tools, and dare I say, sanitize it. So they can say, oh, it's not actually CSAM, it's computer generated. Fortunately, in the US, you can still move those forward and prosecute and charge, but maybe not all around the world. And then, of course, image and such that is on there too. So the vast majority of reports in red, that's other companies. It's companies like Facebook that are realizing people are now spreading that imagery on their platform. That's after they used Stability AI or Stable Diffusion, one of those types of tools to create the content. It's already out in the wild. So we're already behind the gun if that's happening and the public's finding it or members of the public. On the screen, I'm not going to read any of these to you. What I will tell you is that the companies report the actual prompts that individuals are typing into the machines and trying to get it to create content. This slide is actually the third version of a slide that we created. The first one, our comms team, our CEO was like, that is way too graphic. You can't share that in public, so we had to scrap it. Our second one, still too graphic. And then this one, they finally said, okay, you can share this piece, but it gives you an idea of what it is these people are trying to do. I won't stay on there long. Notify apps. Anyone who's has kids in the schools these days, or the school systems, at least in the United States, it is just prolific. There are classmates using tools, Notify-type tools, and creating nude images of their classmates. And we hear from parents that are understandably very upset. They've done everything right. They're using parental controls, they've talked to their children about being safe online, and yet this still happened. So working through those different types of tools, we're even seeing scammers. I mentioned the financial sextortion scams, those in Nigeria, Ivory Coast, they're using these Notify apps. We've actually seen cases, and I might have one in here, where the scammers took a clothed image of a minor, ran it through the Notify app, and then wanted to blackmail them. Otherwise, they were going to disseminate it to their friends and family unless they paid them. So it's all changing. All of it's changing. The financial sextortion. So this hit our radar about 2.5 years ago as this up-and-coming emerging issue, and we started to raise awareness to it. You know, with the cyber tip line getting all of this different information from members of the public, from the companies, typically it is at what you could call the tip of the spear. As soon as there's a new topic, something's evolving, the tip line's going to see it. So we brought together the tech industry, we brought together law enforcement, the financial sector, and said, guys, this is what we're seeing. We're not going to be the ones that can solve it, other than maybe doing some public awareness and PSAs. We need all of you to come together and start fighting this issue. And there's been some progress made, but it hasn't tipped the way that it needs to be. So you see kind of the average age that's happening there. This is targeting young boys. So it is typically what appears to be an attractive young female approaching young boys, wants to trade images. Oftentimes that female account will send a nude image first, and as soon as that image comes back, that crotch shot, if you will, the sextortion scheme begins, and they want payment or they will disseminate it online. This gives you an idea of the growth and explosion of the reports. What started predominantly in the Ivory Coast and Nigeria, we're now starting to see it pop up in countries like the Philippines, Malaysia, and the APAC region. Once it's known that there is a business model to be made, it seems to be expanding quite a bit. Here's actually that case that I mentioned to you, but I'm going to try and save time. I see my clock running. I'm not going to deal with that. I won't worry about that one. At the end of the day, NCMEC wants to be part of solutions, though. So we can sit here, lay out the problem, give you the trends. We want to be part of the solution. And so for years, NCMEC has provided a hash list, similar to what you heard from Stephen earlier, of verified child sexual abuse images and videos. Fortunately for us, being the U.S. National Clearinghouse for Victim Identification, we know all of the children who have been identified, verified by law enforcement that they are in fact minors. There are over 30,000 of such minors that have been identified, and we make sure all of their digital fingerprints, their hash values, are in those lists so that the companies can proactively search for that content on their platform, remove it, and report it as well. We do an exploitative list similar to what Stephen talked about earlier too. And more recently, we launched a program called Take It Down. Take It Down is a free service. It's available globally, and I'll show you a little bit about it, which allows minors that are in possession of that image, they can actually use our service, hash that image, no PII is captured, and we share that with the tech industry for removal, and it works. You can see here a lot of examples of why we have to do this. There are times that survivors are out there Googling themselves with certain keywords and finding their child sexual abuse material. It's unfathomable that they can find it through search engines, or they're reaching out to companies when they know their content is being hosted on the platform, and they have trouble getting it down. There's more that we can do, more ways that we can help, so we came up with Take It Down. This is where it came from, and I'll show you a very quick PSA that explains how it works.
Losing control of your nude images online is terrifying. And if you're a teen, it may feel impossible to reverse it. Well, you can't go back in time and unsend. We can help you move forward.
So we launched it, Take It Down, about 2 years ago. There's been over 100,000 submissions that have come through by minors. The site itself is translated into 35, 36 different languages. In conversations with Tomislav, we are going to translate the entire site into Croatian. And the beautiful thing about that is you can put that on your webpage, make it your own, raise awareness around it. It's in your native language. The only piece that NCMEC would be involved in is actually just the hash matching and getting it to the companies. The rest you own. It's all free, super, super easy to utilize. I mentioned to you that we don't capture any personally identifiable information. There are times that people that use Take It Down reach out to us. And so you see 2 examples up here where individuals reached out. This particular one, especially the bottom part, that actually was a young boy in Serbia that had reached out to us. He was on Snapchat, and it was exactly one of those types of cases that I just mentioned to you. He sent a picture to what he thought was an attractive female teenager that very quickly went into the sextortion piece. We were able to get that hash. He had flagged it for us. We were able to put the 2 together and get it off of both Snap, and the person had posted it onto Meta as well. So we were able to get that down and provide those services to him. So it's working. This program works in addition to the other pieces that we're doing, which also takes us down the path. There's a lot that NCMEC does to try and help families, survivors, law enforcement, and other NGOs. We do crisis intervention. We have psychologists, sociologists that are on staff that provide that. Team Hope, I won't go into detail on all of these just because of time, but what we find is there's a group of adults that have either experienced a missing child or a sexually exploited child. And any time that there's a new family going through that, we have a group of volunteers within Team Hope. It's a support system. So you're not alone. You're not lost. Oftentimes law enforcement are doing their investigation. They need to be left alone. They don't have time to give the attention and care that maybe a parent needs when they're going through one of the most traumatic events in their life, let alone their children too, for that matter. And so Team Hope is there to provide the support. Everything that we do is free. It's free for everyone. We are very blessed to have strong relationships with the federal government. We get grants from our Department of Justice. We also receive funding from tech industry, individual donations, and we're able to provide all of our services for free. And a big part of my work is not just focusing on children in the US. Part of my portfolio is certainly trying to protect children all around the world. The list of countries that you see on the screen right now, that's from this year, where either I or a team member have been in those countries providing those trainings. You can see our Project Boost, that's in Kenya, so it's a team down there. We've actually gone to both Nigeria, we've been to the Ivory Coast, Kenya, Ghana, really trying to tackle these issues, train law enforcement, and assist them with their investigations. The other image there, that's Pakistan, where we did Take It Down, translated it there and did a big launch. I was in Korea earlier this year where we did a collaboration agreement to share information. And then Take It Down, as I mentioned earlier, is in almost 40 different languages. Croatian will be one of our newest ones. So I am coming in right at the end here with about 30 seconds to go. I see you. And just want to say, folks, that it is a real pleasure, real honor to be here today, to find ways to collaborate with all of you on protecting children. We truly believe that every child deserves a safe childhood, and that starts with all of you, all of us, staying focused and continuing to fight this fight. So thank you very much.